reading. I'm going to be reading firstly from St. Matthew chapter 9, verse 20 to 22, and then I do some other verses as I go along. St. Matthew chapter 9, verse 20 to 22. And behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him, which is Jesus, and touched the hem of his garment. For she said within herself, if I may but touch his garment, I shall be made whole. But Jesus turned him about, and when he saw her, he said, daughter, be of good comfort, thy faith hath made thee whole. And the woman was made whole from that hour. I jump quickly over to St. Mark, chapter 5, verse 25. Verse 25 to 34. And it continues by saying this. And a certain woman, which had an issue of blood 12 years, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing better, but rather grew worse. And when she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind, and touched his garment. And she said, if I may but touch his clothes, I shall be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press, and said, who touched my clothes? And his disciples said unto him, thou seest the multitude thronging thee, and sayest thou, who touched me? And he looked round about to see her that had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, came and fell down before him and told him all the truth. And just the last part, I'm just going quickly. In St. Luke chapter 8, verse 43 to 48, it says, and a woman having an issue of blood 12 years, which had spent all her living upon physicians, neither could be healed of any, came behind him and touched the border of his garment, and immediately her issue of blood stopped. And Jesus said, who touched me? Then all denied. Peter and they that were with him said, Master, the multitude throng thee and press thee, and thou sayest, who touched me? And Jesus said, somebody had touched me, for I perceive virtue gone out of me. And when the woman saw that what was done, she hid. And when the woman saw that she was not ill, she came trembling and falling down before him, and declared unto him before all the people for what cause she had touched him, and how she was immediately healed. And I stop here. And this topic here about the woman with the issue, the theme I have is the woman with the issue, faith, hope, and passion. The woman with the issue, faith, hope, and passion. And we see here it's a very profound text, because it is referred to in 3 different books, 3 different gospels write about the story. So it's not just one of them, right, but all 3 gave different accounts to this incident about this woman. And it tells us that when something like this happens, it has to be mentioned because it is very noteworthy. Now I'm not going to really go up to all the verses, but we see we are in St. Matthew, where the woman went to Jesus, and prior to that, we see And prior to that, we see where Jesus was speaking to Jairus, who had approached him about his daughter who was sick. And in all three Gospels also, Jairus' story comes up. But tonight, I'm not going to live on Jairus because the crowd of the people who were there that caused this woman to be there was because Jesus was going to be going to heal Jairus' daughter. And therefore, the woman heard about it. So she joined the crowd also, because we know the story that this woman had an issue for so many years. So many years she had a problem dealing with, and different accounts. Some say it was an hemorrhage, and we know that it wasn't all her lifetime she had a problem, because it said 12 years, and the woman was not 12 years old. So we know that it was just 12 years within her age group, her age rather range, that she started having a problem. And it tells us that she went to many different physicians because she was a wealthy person, obviously. She spent out all that she had. She went to physicians, but none of them, could help her. They took her money, yes. They tried different things, yes, but they could not help her. And it went to the point where all her money was finished. She became frustrated. She became distressed. And the problem was they're going worse. She didn't really want to give up because she was very persistent. She was a woman of faith. She was a woman of hope. She was a woman of passion. And because she had all of these things going for her, it gave her this determination to keep pressing on. So when she felt like giving up, she knew that God and her faith in God would really see her through. She knew that hope would make not ashamed. So if she continued opening in, then it would bring her victory. Like the song earlier and said, my worship is my weapon. So she knew how to tap into worship to get the victory. And therefore, in spite of her having this disease, having this issue all 12 years, she knew how to really touch the Lord by faith. So she continued. And because the Lord was going, like I said, to heal Jairus' daughter, she was among the crowd. Right, and she hid among the crowd. And while there, she was saying to herself, Lord, if I could just touch his garment, because she knew there was a purity issue. In fact, she was a Jew, and she knew that she should not be in the midst with the people with her based on her issues, her situation, because it was not right for the Jews really with an issue like that to go among the crowd. It's just like now, for example, we're talking about pandemic, and we know people, if somebody has COVID, for example, you have to go on isolation, quarantine, and all of those things. So basically, I've never had it, so I had not really go in those situations. I know. So this woman basically would have to go in some quarantine or some isolation because she had a problem. But because of her situation, she told herself, comes what may, she was going to get her deliverance. So she went in the crowd, hid herself among the crowd, praying within her heart, and Lord, if I was talking to herself, if I can just touch, not his hands, not his feet, not his, whatever, but just his clothes. So what she did to bend down, I would imagine that nobody would see her among the crowd. She hid, that's what the scripture says. And while hiding there, she managed to touch his clothes. But immediately the Lord perceived that something strange had happened. So the Lord, it says, behold, that's in St. Matthew now, verse 20. It says, and behold, the woman which was diseased, she with the issue of blood, 12 years, came behind him. She came behind Jesus because she sized him up, different from all the other persons who were there. And she said, it doesn't matter. I know I'm not supposed to be here, but I'm going to try because I want my deliverance. And that's persistent, the passion she had, the persistency that she had. And it tells us that when we have a need, we can't give up easily because we have a purpose. And the passion is what was driving her to be in this crowd in spite of her situation. So she went up behind Jesus and she touched the hem of his garment. And she said, for she said within herself, if I may but touch his garment, just his garment, the touch of his garment alone is enough. Not his ear, not his hands, not his shoulder, not his sleeve or anything, just the hem, the lowest part of the ground, the humility in her. Said, if I can really touch down there, even she going to fall after that, but she going to struggle to touch the hem of his garment. And when the Lord saw, the Lord knew, the Lord said, daughter. So here, she was no longer a stranger. She was no longer a diseased person. She was called daughter. And when the Lord called somebody daughter, his own, daughter, the Lord said, be of good comfort. So here she was distressed, but she received comfort immediately from who? The master. Maybe in her whole lifetime, that situation, she didn't have one person to really comfort her. Because the person who she went to for comfort and for healing and for health and to help her with that situation, all they did was to take her money, leave her distressed, leave her penniless, leave her hopeless, so to speak, when it comes to, financial status. But the Lord comforted her and said, be of good comfort. Thy faith, your faith alone has made you whole. So it's not the money that you have, it's not anything else, just a faith that you perceive that you can touch the hem of his clothes. The Lord said, your faith that drive you down to the hem of my garment, that is what restore you and heal you. And the scripture said, and the woman was made whole from that very hour. So it didn't take 2 minutes after or whatever. It said from that very minute, from that time, no longer she had a situation. And if I just quickly reiterate it and send Mark's view of it, where after she touched the Lord, because in verse 36 it said, and Jesus immediately knew it. And in fact, I read from verse 39, it said, and straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up. This is after she touched him, because she had said the very thing in her heart, if I can just touch his clothes, I shall be whole. And in verse 29 it said, and straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up. So what the doctors could not do, what the physicians could not do, what the health specialists could not do, what the other persons who went to could not do, it says, just one touch, straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up. It doesn't mean she didn't have blood in her body, because blood is life. And if she didn't have blood, then she could not live. So she had blood, but the situation that she had, it ceased immediately. So no longer she was going through that embarrassment that she had to go through on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis or whatever happened. She had no more embarrassment, because it said, and straightway that situation dried up. And in the Lord realized, he said, the Lord turned himself around. The Lord looked around and he said, who touched me? He knew something strange had happened. He knew she was there because he is God, right? So he knew, but for clarification, he said, who touched me? Because he wanted the person who touched him possibly to really admit or to speak up, that those around him would know that something profound had happened. Because if he didn't ask question, nobody would know that something had happened. Nobody would know that the woman was healed. If he didn't ask question, if he had just ignored her and gone his way, and the throng of crowd continued to terrorize his house, then nobody would know. And it would be recorded today in the 3 Gospels. So the Lord turned himself alone, although he knew, and he said, who touched me? Because he wanted the person who got healing to make it known that his name would be exalted, and that even tonight it will be echoing, that persons would know that the Lord who did it then, who healed her, because of her faith, then somebody else's faith tonight can be lifted up likewise is they can do similarly like this woman. So after he asked the question, his disciples took him on. The disciples said unto him, thou seest the multitude. In other words, they're saying that they are rational. Because if you see such a crowd, it's not just one or two. And I can imagine when a celebrity is going in a particular environment, like we had this other day when Prince William and his wife came out here, they had a massive crowd. And when any celebrity is going around in a community or wherever, they normally have a large crowd. So wherever Jesus went, likewise, because he's, he's super celebrity. So wherever he went, he had a throng of persons going along with him. But here his disciples now taking him on. Thou seest the multitude, Lord, thronging thee, and saying, who touched thee? Or who touched me? And he looked around about to see her that had done this thing. So the Lord wasn't really paying them any mind with their statement. The Lord looked around because he was more so concerned about the person who had gotten the healing more than the ridicule that the disciples were coming up with, because they felt that he should not be asking such a question. But he was more so concerned about the woman who received her healing. So he looked around about to see her that had done this thing. But the woman was afraid. The woman was very much afraid because she knew maybe the person would ridicule her because, like I said, purity issues, she should not be among the crowd. But granted, she was there. So she was fearful. And not only fearful, but she was trembling, knowing what was done in her. She came and she fell down before him and she told him all the truth. In other words, she confessed and told Lord, Lord, I know I should not be here, but this was my situation. I've been to so many persons and they could not help me. And this is the reason why I'm here. And the Lord understood her situation. And the Lord right there called her daughter. Likewise in St. Matthew, it says, and he said unto her, daughter, thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace. So we saw in St. Matthew, he comforted her. And in St. Mark, he said, go in peace. Don't worry, go in a perturbed mind. Don't be disturbed. Have peace in your mind because you are healed. Don't matter what the soothsayers are saying. Don't matter what person is saying that you should not be here. Go in peace. Because Jesus Lord at one time said, my peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I thee. So here the Lord is giving her peace. And the Lord was saying, go in peace and be whole of thy plague. So no more, it wasn't a console again, that the Lord had given her consolation. He had given her comfort. He had given her, everything that she needed, assurance that she could go on her way and she could spread the gospel, that her situation, no longer she had to hide, but her situation was changed from that self-same power. And quickly over, I just reinforce just a few verses here in St. Luke now. In verse 43, it says, and the woman which had the issue of blood, which had spent all her living upon physicians, neither could be healed, came behind him and touched the border of his garments, and immediately her issue was stanch. That means it stopped instantly. And we see the three different accounts of the Gospels. They tell their story, or this one situation, this one, of this woman, her story came to an end because what? Her faith, her hope in God, and her passion gave her the confidence, gave her the resilience to receive her victory, to receive whatever she needed. So tonight I can be telling you about the same. And the question again, in verse 44, it says, verse 45, sorry, it says, and Jesus said, who touched me? So like I said earlier in the others, the Lord knew, but he wanted for clarification. He wanted the crowd around him to know that something supernatural something phenomenal had happened. Somebody had received their healing. Somebody had got their victory. The Lord said, who touched me? And hear this part of it now. Not just disciples, it said, but Peter, to be distinct. It said, Peter, and they that were with him said, Master, the multitude throng thee and press thee, and they say, who touched me? And Jesus said, somebody had touched me, for I perceive. I'm not guessing. I'm not spell guessing. I perceive it. I know it. That something strange has happened. Because what? Virtue. And when virtue leave the Lord and go out, it's like if somebody come to you and speak to you, and that person is hungry. There is something, if you are a sensitive person, and not even a human being, no, if you have an animal, and that animal comes around and look at you, just looking at the animal, you can see that there's a need, right? Their behavior, they may decide, behave in different way, and you know that they never normally behave that way. You know, something happens strangely. But here, the Lord says, here, virtue, release. And because virtue release, power, the power of one touch, the supernatural power of one touch. And when somebody touched the Lord, and if you can touch the Lord by faith, you may not have, what we call it now, if you see a celebrity, whoever that person may be, you really want to go near them, but you can't touch them. But you strive every minute to really get as close as you are to them. And I pause there a minute. Some time ago, I was seeing where Queen Elizabeth said she was traveling once with her guards. And the Queen, nobody's supposed to go very near the Queen for security reasons. But the Queen was traveling with her entourage, and the persons were there thronging the road and so on, wanted to see a good glimpse of her. And there are securities were trying to borrow them from her. And she stopped. And she turned to the security, which we would say maybe shouldn't really be. But she turned to the security and said, security, they're here to see me. In other words, she knew that the persons were there. All of them couldn't touch her. All of them couldn't come close to her. But she knew that she was the reason why they were there. So she has said to her security, smiling, security, they are here to see me. And the security understood what she was saying. Matthew, they didn't allow all the people to touch her or whatever, but at least she showed, and the people heard her, what she said, that she acknowledged their presence also. And that's why I'm saying about it now, because we know that the Lord was there. The crowd was there, but the Lord had to ask the question that persons around would know that something special had happened, and somebody special had received their healing. So here the Lord said, somebody had touched me, for I perceive that virtue is gone out of me. And when, like I said earlier, when virtue release is power, dynamic power, dunamis. And when dunamis leaves somebody, leaves God, then we know what happens. Miracles release in the atmosphere. Not magic, but miracles release. And if somebody wants miracle now, then you can release, you see your miracle. Because what? The miracle worker is in our midst. He is a supernatural God. He is, the one who the woman pressed to touch. He is the one who released her faith and her hope and her passion. And because she did this, then the virtue release. And tonight we're talking about the power that was released as a result of that. And quickly, verse 48 says, and the Lord said also unto her, daughter, be of good comfort, thy faith hath made thee whole. So we see in all three gospels, the Lord referred to her as daughter. He didn't just refer to her as woman with the issue. He didn't refer to her as woman with the disease or woman who had, what they call it, hemorrhage or whatever. No, he said daughter, because she became a special person. As of that self same hour, she became a daughter in Zion. And tonight, if you feel that you are not worthy, if there's anybody feel here tonight that you don't even need to come close to the presence of the Lord, you can call your daughter. Because what? We are children of the Most High God. And when we put our trust in Him, when we put our faith, the scripture says faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtain a good report. And tonight, if we can have faith, we can see the substance of things hoped for, just like that woman who received her faith return to victory. Because what? She pressed forth with the hope and passion, and the power of that one touch brought victory, even unto this day, that we can make mention that the name of the Lord can be exalted. God bless you in Jesus' name.